In 1985, following a somewhat dip in ratings following the 22nd season, Doctor Who's 23rd season was cancelled. However, following fan backlash, the BBC quickly put out a statement saying, "Don't worry, Doctor Who is not cancelled, it's merely on hiatus, it will return in September 1986. Well, September 1986 came around and Doctor Who was back, and this time it was on trial, both both on screen and behind the scenes. The Trial of a Time Lord was the 23rd season of Doctor Who, and it came out with came over 14 episodes and 4 separate serials. Now, the first of these was The Mysterious Planet, which debuted from the 6th to the 27th of September 1986. The Sixth Doctor, played by Colin Baker, suddenly arrives on a space station manned by the Time Lords, and there he is put on trial. The trial is overseen by the Inquisitor, played by Linda Bellingham, and the main person for the prosecution is the Valeyard, played by Michael Jaston. Now, while I know what the Valeyard's ultimate deal is, for the time being I'll keep it secret until I get to the end of this particular season. Now, they are there to show that the Doctor has been exhibiting behaviour unbecoming of a Time Lord, kind of getting involved in things and ultimately interfering where he shouldn't have. Now, in order to do this, they go into the Matrix, which is like a kind of internet of Gallifrey where everything is monitored and restored, and they show the Doctor's interference with a planet called Ravalox. Now, in the film that they show, the Doctor, of course played by Colin Baker, and his companion Perry Brown, played by Nicola Bryant, arrive on the planet of Ravalox, which was supposedly hit and damaged by a fireball, which caused mass damage. But while there, they discover a load of mysterious things going on, and which eventually leads them to realise that Ravalox is actually Earth, which they discover when they find the remains of the sign for Marble Arch Station. Now, while they're on Ravalox, or Earth, they end up coming across several characters, including a mysterious L3 robot known as Drathro, who looks to use a black light generator and black light in order to fuel himself, and if he can't fuel himself, he doesn't see any point in humanity surviving. A tribe of basically survivors led by a woman named Queen Ketrika, played by Joan Sims, who are mainly just looking to survive and rebel against the robots, whom they refer to as the Immortals, and 2 kind of scavengers named Sabalon Glitz and Dibber, played by Tony Selby and Glenn Murphy. Now, Glitz would eventually prove so popular that he would eventually come back to Doctor Who during the 7th Doctor's era, which, while I was watching this with a couple of family members, one of them ended up saying, "Well, Glitz must have been popular." I was like, was he though? I mean, he only really appeared in this set of stories, kind of Trial of a Time Lord and Dragonfire later on with Sylvester McCoy. And it was like, well, and they were like, well, yes, I mean, still, across 2 Doctors, that's quite a run. I was like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Another family member pointed out that, once again, some of the actors they had in this particular serial were quite big for the time. As they pointed out, Linda Bellingham and Joan Sims, who they said were quite big during the 1980s. So, fair enough. So it's ultimately a race against time for the Doctor to try and find a way to stop everything from being destroyed, as the robot Drathro ends up kind of wanting to destroy everything and have to get everything back to normal. Now, one thing I will say about this episode is the effects, once again, do seem like a step up. I mean, the opening sequence, once again, it's got a nice kind of mix with the music, and while it remains the same, it does have a bit more bright colour and a bit more atmosphere to it. But the first thing that I will say I was impressed about was the Mysterious Planet opens up with an impressive CGI opening of the kind of camera running along the space station where the trial is ultimately due to take place, which, looking at it and then comparing it to some of Doctor Who's earlier effects, I will admit I did find it rather impressive, especially for 1986. As I said, this particular serial, I feel, does have a lot of atmosphere. I mean, you've got the kind of bright kind of tunnels down below, which eventually reveal to be some sort of underground, which works very well. The misty forests work well, and even the survivors' encampment, it does have atmosphere to it. Although we did point out that the prison cell is very much uh, wood painted to look like stone, which we did feel was a little cheesy. But then again, it's the 80s. Everything was just a little bit cheesy around that time. So overall, with this story, I personally think it's decent. I mean, I know that this would ultimately be Colin Baker's last series, and I know people aren't necessarily keen on this particular set of storylines, but from the opening one, The Mysterious Planet, I actually think they did a good job with it. I mean, it's cheesy, yes, but then I do know it does bring up some quite hokey moments later on, and for the first episode of this or first serial of this particular season, I feel they got off to a good start here. Whether they'll remain on that trajectory, well, I'll let you know when I see that. Anyway, this particular season, of course, went over 4 different serials: The Mysterious Planet, Mind Warp, Terror of the Vervoids, and The Ultimate Foe. So, of course, the next one I'll have to review when it comes up is Mind Warp, which I'll hope to do fairly soon. Anyway, until then, what do I think of The Mysterious Planet? Well, I think it's a decent opener to this particular season. So there you go. Not really much more to say about it. A good opener. Anyway, until I watch Mind Warp, see you then.